Father, we thank you for this episode. Let the wisdom that comes out of this bless somebody somewhere watching this. In your name, amen.
Amen. If I call you bro, that means I love you, bro. That means I'll go to war with you.
Fire, baby.
The reason why you need to know your identity is because when you know who you are, people don't get to define it for you. When I tell you guys who you have in your circle is important.
You're listening to the Bros to Men podcast with Cameron Persad, Jeff T. Osborne, and Roy Rand.
What's going on, beautiful people? We are back. Welcome to the Bros to Men podcast, where we drop jewels that inspire action. I'm here with my brothers, man. You already know it's been a minute. There's been so much going on, but I'm so fired up for this episode. You have no idea where we've been at, what's been going on, and so we just gonna be here, have a conversation, and chop it up, man. So we just checking in, man, and following and seeing where we're at right now. So I mean, hey, look, the floor's open. We don't have anything that no topics. We just gonna let this thing flow.
I don't think we've ever done that before, right? It's always like introduce a topic and we kind of stick to that. But this is gonna be a real conversation. Honestly, our first time catching up in a long while, right?
Yeah.
Like Dips, I don't think I've seen Bro over here and probably we're kind of spread out now, you know. So.
Yeah. So listen, now you can see, I know that everybody sees it. We're in a different studio. We're doing something different. We got the couches here. So it kind of brings that more that vibe that we're looking for. We're just having real conversation, bringing you guys into our lives and seeing what's happening. So let's open up the floor, man. Dips, where you been at, man? What's going on with you, bro?
Man, just been working. We purchased our first company about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Just been lead gen, trying to figure out how I can build that up, purchase more companies, get some investments going in. The speaking is going well. I'm going to be speaking a lot in 2024 all over the world. I'm excited about that whenever I get to share my message and just something about that stage, man. And thank you, Jeff. You inspired me to want to be a speaker.
Come on.
And you be leaning on me, man. I'll be like, yo, he's good at it.
Yes, sir.
So, and just getting more clarity, you know, I'm really all over the place on what I want to do. And I think, Jeff, you kind of just said to me, like, yo, you gotta focus, bro. Like, you gotta pick what you're gonna really dial in on and just really dominate that. And for me, that was speaking, sharing our message through podcasts and things like this, content. And buying those companies is the long vision for, you know, financial goals and what I want to do in the healthcare space. So that's what I've been on, man.
That boy been working.
That boy been working, man.
That boy been working.
Hey, so look, I said we were talking a little bit, but I had this thought that obviously we're each going to talk about where we're at, what's going on, whether it's the short of it or the long of it, whatever, either way you want to look at it. But where you're at, acquiring companies, speaking, doing what you're doing, bro, what's been something that that's been on your mind, on your heart, that you feel like, man, this is where my space is at. This is where my head space is in where you're at right now.
Sharing ideas to make people live better lives or improve their business. Like, there's just something about teaching that I love so much, not only because other people get stuff out of it, but I learn the fastest from teaching something. So I'll learn something, you know, we got our rule, 5 books on it, read it. And then as I start to write about it or generate how I would teach it to a child, that's when you really get to understand it and get a deep knowledge on it. And I guess I feel like I'm here to learn. All experts are students first. And so my way of being a student is teaching. And so I just love to share ideas.
They really say, like, you don't truly know something until you can teach it. You know what I mean? Like, if you can't teach it to someone like at an elementary, mediocre level, you know, where it's just black and white, like, how well do you truly know it, right?
Facts.
So you said something, we were talking back in the green room, and you were really just talking about where you are right now mentally. Like, they see us on the stage, they see us speaking, they see us coaching, you know, they look at our posts, we're in board meetings, but there's this other side of what we do, which is the human side of it, right? When we talk about that, we're always talking about dropping jewels, dropping gems that inspire action. But you brought something up that we were like, man, like, where have you been at in your mental space? Like, aside from, you know, dropping jewels, but where have you been personally, and what challenges are you facing now that, you know, that you're wanting to focus on?
I remember we talked about on the old episode, we said all bad emotions come from loss, less, or never. And we're usually depressed.
Yeah, it was
that
an
was
early one.
that
That
was
was
boiling.
really though. That was a bar though.
We're usually depressed or sad about things we lose or have less of, or we have anxiety about a future. And I've really had anxiety about where I'm at because I want to, I got big goals. And I'd be like, I feel like I'm behind, right? And there's this balance of, there's a certainty of knowing I'm going to get there, but then there's also this kind of like, my dad texted me one day and he just was like, I'm not getting any younger. And I got all these goals of what I want to do for him and my family. And it's like, yo, he's not getting any, like
if that don't inspire you, motivate
it
you.
inspired me.
Right.
So it's being patient, but also being relentless and having continuity on my habits and goals.
Talk about it.
And it's so hard to be in that space of being anointed, but not yet appointed. And so struggling with how do I be patient, but do I need to change something? Is that the reason why I don't have the result? Or is it just patience? Like, what do I have to do? Where am I at? And I've just been praying on, don't give it to me till I'm ready. I don't want my results to take me to a place that my character can't keep me. But also it's like, yo, bring it. I want it
Speed it up,
tomorrow.
right.
Speed it up. So struggling with that and just, whatever, I don't know how you guys feel on it. I know a lot of people out there might be in that same position. Like, I should have this job. I should be on this level. I should be a fireman right now, even though it's been 6 years and I've been applying for departments. Whatever that is for you, you've been putting in the work. God sees you. But when is it your time?
Boy, listen, I'm trying to find right now. Like, they don't even know right now in the studio. Look, in this studio, we got one of the dopest thing, man. Shout out to Solomon. He gave me some. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's bad just yet.
We're going to find out.
We're gonna figure it out. I got
Try
a
and
little soundboard
find
right
out.
here.
Try and find out.
Yeah.
I got some right now. It's a soundboard. So I got all of these different like buttons on here. I got the little cheer, so people go, the little cheer right now,
Yeah.
getting excited over this. I mean, there's so much going on right now. I don't know. I'm like, I'm looking at
It's
you
hard to
talking.
focus.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw some on there, whether it's a DJ horn, throw something in there like that. But ultimately, man, as we begin to talk, I may drop some. So if y'all hear it, don't get alarmed. But talk about that, bro. I love how you said that because that's so real. I love how you said, how it's almost like a juxtaposition. How do you stay relentless, but you're in this weight? How do you say persistent, but you're still in this weight? Like, Cam, come on, bro. Weigh in on it. I see you shaking your head. What's
I'm
good,
just
man?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because I think all of us are experiencing something very similar. And I think it's because it's human, and I think sometimes, especially when you're young and you're planning these big goals and you have these big dreams and these lofty goals, right? I think that we almost somehow think like the rest of life is going to stop and allow us to go and accomplish and achieve those goals.
Kind of skip steps.
Yeah, and then we'll press play again. Everything else can kind of catch back up. But unfortunately, as we know, it doesn't work that way. And to touch on that, a little bit, I think, back to a conversation we had earlier, man.
Yeah.
It's just like Jeff rocked me with this on the way over here because I was expressing some of this frustration, and we've kind of spoke about, one of the biggest challenges is that feeling like you've lost momentum and then trying to pick it back up because you're leaving a situation that it was a good situation, but it wasn't the right situation.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's such a huge, oh my God, it's a breakthrough if you can distinguish the two and kind of know which way you need to go at that fork in the road, because there's so many good situations that aren't the right situation, right? You'll leave a good relationship to find the right one. You'll leave a good job to find the right job, right? You'll leave a good opportunity where it's like, oh, I can go make more money here, and I can go do this, and I can go do that. But it's ultimately not the right path for you. It's not what you're placed here on this earth to do. And I think in my own struggles with that, I think what I've come to realize, it's taken me 36 years to realize this, that you have to be comfortable with your no. And what I mean by that is in saying no to things, although they seem alluring and attractive, and I kind of do want to do that. I think if you can distinguish that and you can find that out, you kind of experience so much freedom. So what I mean in that is I've realized that if you say yes in one area, it's going to cost you a no somewhere else.
Boy.
So if you say yes to the job that takes more of your time and it takes more money, or you're going to make more money in the process, and well, what else in your life are you going to have to tell no so that you can say yes to this job, right? So I'm telling my significant other no more often because, babe, I'm working. No, I got called in. I have to go out of town for this convention. And at some point you have to, I think, have a negotiable and that non-negotiable, right? What areas in your life are you not willing to tell no because that's your priority? You know, I'm not willing to sacrifice my relationship. I'm not willing to sacrifice my family. I'm not willing to sacrifice my health. Those are things that are non-negotiable for me, right? But if you, again, I think can distinguish in between those two, it might be, a little easier for you to kind of say yes to certain things.
Yeah.
But it may prevent you from saying yes to the wrong things. How do you navigate that, bro?
Jesus, bro. Dropping bombs, boy. Hold on. Let me see if I got some right here. Like just click, click, boom. You know what I'm saying? But I love that the concept of that and even how you're sharing that, because we were talking about that in the car. I said oftentimes the opposite of right isn't always wrong. And that was started the conversation. Oftentimes the opposite of right is good. And so when it comes to life, when it comes to making decisions, it's exactly what you said. Is this a good decision or is this the right decision? Is this a good relationship or is it the right relationship? And when you understand the difference between right and good, it's crazy how sometimes choosing a right situation makes it seem like you lost momentum.
Right. Yeah.
Like you can choose a right situation and it makes it seem like, man, you watching everybody else who chose another situation and you feel like you're in the slow lane on the highway of life instead of feeling like you're watching everybody take wins, you watching everybody else go, and you know you've made a right decision, but you see it seems like you're losing momentum. Or the right decision, we talked about it before, makes it seem like you're taking steps back. And so the tension that we lay in is when you exit one room, before you enter into the other room, it's what do you do in the hallway? Like, you feel me? Like, how do you keep the motivation? How do you keep that level of excellence? How do you keep that drive when you're in the hallway? And I told Cam, it's like you walking down the hallway, got your ear to everybody else's door, and it sounds like they're having the time of their life, and you haven't gotten your call. You haven't gotten that moment. You haven't gotten that open door. And so it's very possible, bruh. I think we've all been in that where you feel like I've made the right choice, I've made the right decision, but why does it feel like I've lost momentum? And so it's learning how to become excellent and build yourself. I think we shared it like this, man. Uncle TD, man, Bishop, he said, man, your downtime is your prep time.
Right.
And so every moment that door isn't open, what is that prep time? But then also, let's keep it 100. Like, let's keep it real. When you're in a right situation, there's always the temptation to go back and revisit the good situation.
Ooh.
That's
Like Cam told me this. Let me get it. He said that W that you want is wrapped in that L you're not willing to take.
come on.
What?
That
W
talking about?
that you really want is wrapped in that L you're
you're
not
scared
willing
to take.
to take.
Yeah. Because it's like it's naive and almost ignorant to think that every situation is your win, it's your W, right? Like, for example, I have a younger cousin. She called me recently and she was complaining about all these failed relationships, right? Yeah. And she was telling me like, yeah, every one I go into, I'll go with such high hope and I go with such, high regard and anticipation that this is the one, and it doesn't work out. And I said, isn't that the whole point of dating? Like, that's a good thing. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, because we date, so we go through however many to find the one, right? So you have to think these L's that I'm taking in this relationship is getting me closer to the W. You don't want to settle somewhere and just put the W title on someone that you're not meant to be with. It was like, you can't be scared to take an L, especially you can put yourself out there in dating, right? Or, here's another example or a different context. You're interviewing for your dream job and I'm interviewing. I keep getting told no. I can't get good. Hopefully you're avoiding opportunities that you're going to be miserable in, right? Hopefully you're avoiding opportunities that are going to be hell for you. a place that you're going to dread going to every single day, or coworkers that aren't going to value you. Coworkers aren't going to see, the value in the gold nuggets that you bring to that organization.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to be willing to go through the L's because there's lessons wrapped in all of them. And that's where that wisdom comes from. So if we go back to dating, how do you know what you want that significant person to have? The qualities, right? The character you want them to have. You determine that by coming across all those L's and say, okay, now I know what I don't want. And then when you come across something that's different.
Like JL said, your downtime is your prep time. And this is what I'm getting for what you shared is we talked about David being on the back of the mountain, prepping, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if some people don't know that they're in their prep time? They don't know they're in their season of preparation because they want the results so bad. But in dating and doing all of these things that maybe isn't a direct path to the goal is also your prep time. So when you get to that goal, you're ready to handle your Goliath when you get there.
I think there's a couple things, bro, that was so real. Like Nadi and I were just having a conversation about where we're at, and Cam and I were talking. I was reading this book, man. This book I always read a book for business. I read a book for my mind, and I read a book for my spirit, right? And this book was talking about
the book.
Yeah.
I want y'all to notice how competitive we are. He did not say the book because he know I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna read it.
Hey, that's a competitive edge.
He said this book dropped the book.
No. So look, I was reading this book, right? And so he talked about how for most of us we deal with two sins, and he says the first sin is the sin of rebellion, and the second sin is the sin of presumption. And so he says the first sin, which is the sin of rebellion, is whenever God is telling you to do something and you don't move, that's rebellion, right? The second one, though, he says, is just as lethal, and that's the sin of presumption. And presumption is you are being presumptuous in your idea to presume that you know how you're supposed to do it without waiting for God to show you how to do it. And so the first one is you saying, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be, but then you don't wait to figure out what those instructions are, what those marching orders are. So you just presume that this is how I'm supposed to do it. And I told Cam, I think that the last almost 10 years of my life was me living in a portion of me understanding that I'm called to impact lives. I'm called to encourage people. That just comes naturally. But where I made my mistake is that I presumed that because I love church, because I love God, because I love his word, that I got to be a pastor. And so I went that route. And what it led to was 8, almost 10 years of lessons that I felt like I wouldn't have had to learn because I just presumed that this is how it was supposed to happen. The reason why I'm saying that is because when it comes to us being able to prolong what God has for us in our life or prolong that purpose that you have, my question is maybe some of it is being prolonged because we're just presuming that this is how we're supposed to do it when there's a different way that we're supposed to do it, right? We presume that if I'm going to advance in the company, that means the company offering me the most money is the right company to be able to do that. And oftentimes God gives us what we need in a package that we don't want.
Ain't that fast?
Hold on, let me just go ahead and drop that one real quick. But that's what I've learned. So here's the crazy thing about it is I feel like we've had to learn lessons in those years that got us to understand where we are. It allowed us to learn. So you can learn from pain, but it doesn't mean that just because you're learning through a painful situation constantly that you're in the right situation as well. And so when you're talking about that idea of saying, man, well, how do you know if you're in your preparation season? How do you know if, I think sometimes, man, we keep learning lessons and we chalking it up to God giving us lessons so we can grow. But God, like, I didn't want to send you that. You did that because your own stupidity. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't blame me. Yeah, don't blame me. And that wasn't the devil. So don't give you credit for something that you're doing yourself. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like sometimes we say that it's the devil. We say that it's all these things, but these are constant choices and decisions that we're making. And so coming back to what you're asking is, how do you know you're in your preparation season when you don't see open doors? Well, how do you know you're in your preparation season when it just feels like you're going through trials or you're growing? So I'm gonna flip the question. How do you know, Dips, or even Cam, because I know y'all over there lifting the gyms, how do you know that your muscle is being built
Mm-hmm.
if you don't see the fruit of that being built? What's the sign and the indicator? And here's the catch. Here's the catch. I want you to tie that to real life. So what I mean by that is when I specifically for what we're talking about, right? So we're saying, how do you know you're in your prep season when you're not seeing results? I want you to tie that analogy to working out in the gym, building muscle when you don't see results.
So here's what I say. If what you see is not what you saw, then you haven't reached your final destination. Do you hear what I just said?
Let me hit
If what you see is not what you saw, then there's work to be done. So let me give you an example, right? I'm in the gym because there's an end goal in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I saw what I'm going to look like when the work is completed. I go to work every day and I go to these meetings and I bust my butt in my career because there is a vision that I see what the end of my career will look like.
Okay.
Now, I don't see that lifestyle yet. I don't see that home. I don't see that family that I'm building and prepping for now.
Okay.
So what I see is not what I saw. Therefore, I'm still working.
Bruh.
And that, to me, it's that simple. To me, it's that simple. Like, we don't have to complicate it. And it could be, when people say like, oh, I'm doing this. I don't know if I'm on the right track. Am I on the right track? Am I still there? Well, what was your vision? Does your life look like what that vision was? What did God show you is what it comes down to, right? If what you're seeing is not what you saw, go back to work. You're not done yet. Keep working.
Go back to work.
Go back to work.
What I'm getting is pain and struggle.
Okay.
So the reason why I know it's working is because I put my muscles under stress, and then my body goes through hormesis and needs to improve based on the demand of that stress.
Okay, hold on, bro. Hold on.
Bro, gonna hit every button before we get out of here.
Hit that Russell real quick. Like, wait, what were you talking about? What did you say? What was the word you used?
Hormesis.
Okay, break it down to us non-medical people. Right? You know what I'm saying?
So there's a principle, a law in nature called the SAID principle, specific adaptation imposed demand. So all that means is if I put a demand on my muscle, the muscle will grow to handle that demand.
Okay.
But until it grows, it's going to go through some pain, right?
Okay.
But as long as you go through that season of pain, knowing that you have a promise on the other end, you're usually willing to endure that pain,
That's
right?
so real.
And so sometimes you got to go through a little bit of anxiety of the not knowing. And like we were talking about in the back was imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I remember I gave this talk, and before I went up to give the talk, I almost threw up because it was like the first time I spoke to like 500 people. And I was extremely nervous. I had to go get right with God.
Was that the TED Talk?
That was
which one?
No, that was before the TED. I was ready for the TED. This was a Christmas thing for orphans.
Okay.
And it was for kids. Kids, if you don't bring it,
They the hardest to this day. They are the
toughest audience.
hardest to talk to.
Yeah, they will tell you trash. They gonna tell you just that toilet right there. You know what I'm saying? That's where you can take that. Go ahead.
So I remember sitting in the back praying, trying to get right, and nobody knew I was nervous but my dad. I don't know how. He's just my dad. He knows. So I was like about to throw up. Gave the talk. And this is when I woke up to the fact that sometimes just because you're uncomfortable doesn't mean you can't get through it. As this girl came up to me and said, "You are such a good speaker. You spoke with so much confidence. How do you do that? How do you speak with confidence?"
Yeah.
And I wanted to tell her, like, I was terrified, right? And so a lot of times the mental pain of the not knowing is what I'm going to compare to the physical pain.
Okay.
But if you just get through, keep working and just do what God called you to do every day, like Cam, King of Habits. Like, how are you eating? You're working out every day, and just allow yourself to adapt to that. You'll eventually get through and you'll get there.
So that's like, I think it was actually on your last show you guys talked about inoculated stress, right? And coming from my background, everyone pretty much knows I work in a public safety background, and that's what we train for. We train for the unknown. We don't train for what happens day to day. We train for the what if moment.
Yeah.
So we don't train necessarily on our daily routine. We train for if crap hits the fan, are we ready to go?
Yeah.
That's what we train for, right? So when people say, oh, whether it's law enforcement, military, they're trained shooters, or they're trained this, or why do they train this way all the time? Well, it's because that's the absolute worst case scenario that can happen, right? So that's why we're ready to go. So what keeps people up at night who operate with that mindset is, God forbid, my opportunity comes, whether it's my breakthrough or it's a situation where I have to perform and rise to the occasion, and I haven't done the work to be ready.
Ooh.
So if you're I don't care what it is, right? I don't care if you're an athlete. I don't care if you're in the realm of business, you're an entrepreneur, if it's in your marriage, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, right? Your lack of preparation should keep you up at night.
Bruh.
Because you should only go to sleep, and I don't mean physically, but I mean you should only be rested and complacent at your level of performance when you know I've done the work. So rain, hail, sunshine, in the desert, me and my folks, we get out there, we train. Me and Roy in the gym, we didn't care if it was Christmas morning, right? We didn't care if we were out partying 2 o'clock in the morning. That alarm goes off, let's get this work, bruh.
Or I remember you guys saying, like, even on Thanksgiving Day, it was like, yo, I can't touch nothing.
Let's
on
earn
that
this meal
until we earn
Let's
this
earn
meal.
this meal. Like, get the work, bro. And that's what it comes down to. So, I always tell people, like, you're naive if you think that this perfect scenario is gonna happen. You're just gonna step into it. And I personally don't believe that you come across those opportunities until you have done the work.
I got a follow-up question because that was good. So in the Navy SEALs, they went and they rescued a captain that some pirates took over their ship, and the sniper was able to hit a guy that had a gun to the captain's head from far. I don't even know.
Yeah. By the way, this is the scenario that Captain Phillips, the movie, was made off
Phillips,
of.
the movie was based off of.
I was thinking in my head, like, dang, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Like, man.
That was a real life scenario that
Real
Captain
scenario.
Phillips made the movie after.
Okay.
But Rob O'Neill talks about it, and he's the Navy SEAL that handled Bin Laden. He talks about it, but a sniper hadn't had to make that shot in 30 years. This guy got the call to have to go make that shot tomorrow, and his sights were ready.
Yeah.
He's been ready for years, as if he's going to be called tomorrow to make a shot.
So
So what keeps you locked in for a scenario that may not never happen? What keeps you going?
Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
I think number one is expectation.
Exactly.
Standard.
Like it comes down to expectation. I think some of us, I love the scripture that says faith without works is dead. And Christians quote it all the time, but I don't think they understand the weight of that scripture. Is I think that more times than none, we have the faith to believe that great things can happen, but our works don't match our faith. So you have faith for big things, but you got part-time, minimal effort type of work. And so what happens is with my mouth, I say, I believe that I can do great things, but your work and your mouth contradict each other, or your work and your actions and what you say you have faith for contradict one another. And so it comes down to expectation. If I expect for me to have the lifestyle that I have, if I'm expecting that I'm going to have that call to come and speak, to coach that CEO, to come in and talk identity. When I was coaching who's now my business partner for our luxury donut franchise that we're stepping into now.
Sir.
I had to talk to my business partner, and I had to tell him, hold on, you need to expect where we're going to go, and then you need to build your work habit up to where your expectation is.
Come on now.
You feel me? And so the work that we started doing is faith is believing in what is not seen. And so I'm not going to wait until it's here, until I prepare for it, because it's too late. You're going to miss your opportunity. But I think what happens with that is that shooter said, I can't control when the call is going to come, or even if the call is going to come from me. Watch this though. But just in case.
Right. Come on.
Just hold on, let me just think. And I'm gonna hit the gun too.
Let's talk about transparency with people that point the finger, people that judge, and all these different things, right? 90% of the people, if not more, that have so much to say about other people and the way they live their lives, have such a low standard of their own lives. You know what I mean? And I think when I talk about transparency, I mean asking yourself a very simple question. When you say, I want to be a husband, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to have my own business, I want to be in the best shape of my life, you need to ask yourself one very simple question. What is it going to require of me?
Count the cost.
To operate at that level, right? So if I call myself, I'm the protector of my household, right? If you try to come through this door in the middle of the night, you're going to have a hell of a time getting up these stairs, I promise you. And why? It's because I have chosen to carry that weight. My significant other, my family, they can sleep peacefully. Because they know if this door comes down,
oh yeah,
there's going to be hell to pay, right? Cam's got it. I don't have to go to the range. You can talk to my girl. She don't even like firearms, right? She refuses to do any type of physical combat. She doesn't want to train. I've tried to offer. No. That's you. You do it. I sleep comfortable knowing that if it happens, you got it, right? So it comes with a cost. It comes with a cost. So my family can sleep peacefully knowing that I train my butt off, that I go do the work. I go lift the heavy weight. You know, I will make the sacrifice. And what keeps me going, this is just me personally. I'm not saying this is what you have to do. But for me, I use regret as a motivating factor.
Wait, hold
because,
on. Talk about
right. So let me talk about it, because a lot of people say, what do you mean by that? I use regret as a motivation factor. So I think it was Gary Vee. He said, if you want to learn one of the biggest life lessons, go to a convalescent home, talk to people on their deathbed. The pain of regret in someone's eyes is unbearable to watch. What do you regret most in your life? Walking out of my family, cheating on my wife, losing my kids, making dumb financial decisions, losing our family home, right? So I think about the pros and the cons of every situation. If I don't take on this weight, if I don't carry this burden, if I don't make the sacrifices, and God forbid that incident happens and I'm not ready, how do I live with myself? That's what motivates me every day. I want my family to be secure. I want my family to know, God forbid something happens, he's got it. But when I come home from work, I'm tired, it's raining, it's holiday, it's already 8 o'clock at night. Let's go get this work in, right? And again, that's because I could never live with that regret of I could have, should have, would have, but didn't because of why. So I would say that's just mine. Find what's your motivating factor. You know, why do you get up and do it every day? Some people it's because, oh, my brother couldn't do it. He's physically disabled, or, you know, this is just my thing to decompress, right? And relieve whatever stress is going on in my life. But I don't care what it is, because success requires boring work. It's not exciting.
It's always the mundane.
It's mundane stuff. Success is doing the same crap day in and day out over and over until it becomes like a habit, until it becomes a memory, right? A memory muscle where you're just doing automatic. But the only way you do it is by putting in hours and tens of thousands of hours into doing something. So you have to find something, because if you just say, looking at the poster on the wall, wanting $1 million, it's not a big enough driving factor.
And that law of attraction, when you talking about, oh yeah, you're gonna say it and you attract it to yourself, name it and claim it. That ain't happening.
It ain't happening.
Like it ain't happening.
No.
Your work ethic and who you are is going to attract your opportunities to you.
Every time.
Like, and so I tell everybody, you don't get a day off. Like when I say a day off, meaning you don't have the luxury. If you're trying to build something for your life, you don't have the luxury to not live in who you created to be, because that's where your opportunities come from, right? And so I think that, and when I say like you don't have the opportunity to be off, I'm not talking about you pretending to be somebody that you're not, or putting on a show, if you will. When I'm talking about you don't have a day to be off, it means that you don't have the opportunity to not live with your standards. You don't get the opportunity to lower your standards because it's more convenient for me not to live in who I say I'm gonna be. I recently had my prison break live virtual experience, right? So
press a button on that.
Hey, hold on. Let me hold on. I'm just gonna do a couple cheers right there. You know what I'm saying? Hello. But it was, what I love about it is it was incredible to see all the people who are struggling with people pleasing. And I talked about being able to assert yourself and learning how to be able to assert yourself when it comes to your boundaries and who you are and where you want to go. And one of the things that I share with them is sometimes the reason why we can't assert ourselves and our purpose and what we want to do is because we haven't built enough trust with ourselves. And one of the ways that we build trust with ourselves is honoring our commitment to ourselves. So every time we place a demand on ourselves and we break that demand, you lose trust that you're going to be able to follow through the next time you have something in front of you. And so my question is how many demands have you broken? How many demands have we made of ourselves? What type of promises have we made about our health, our fitness, our relationships that we thought we had the option not to follow through, not realizing that every time we broke that commitment to ourselves, we lost trust in ourselves. So now you know that when you say something, you don't mean it.
I used to tell my athletes all the time, because when the athletes used to come to me, they used to say, I want to be confident. I'm trying to have Kobe Jordan level confidence. And when you ask people to define confidence, it's very misunderstood. And I hope I can give access to confidence. This was my definition I used to give to the athletes was confidence is an intimate conversation you have with yourself.
Boy, hold on. Let me just get you something like that. You know what I'm saying? Hold on.
Confidence is an intimate conversation you have with yourself. So you're always confident, but you're confident in whatever intimate conversation with you have yourself. So if you tell yourself, I'm gonna wash these dishes and you don't, something deep in you just goes, I don't really trust his word. I don't really rock with him, right? And so it's integrity of word. And you still got a dope video you did a long time ago where you talked about integrity is integar, which means I was like, yo, that video still to this day I remember. But a lot of times we think about that and we say, okay, I give my word to stuff and then I got to do it. And it feels like a lot, like that's bounding. Like, dang, like sometimes I don't want to keep my word. But the way you can still have integrity of word is to not give your word to so many things if you're not going to be able to keep it.
Boy.
Or at least tell someone you're going to think about it, because you're getting so many requests every day, so much input. And even though we're capable, maybe we don't have the capacity for all of that input.
That's good. That's good. Let me tell you something, man.
Well, hold on. Let me just give my man something.
Yeah, go ahead and show him some love on that,
I'm
bro.
just gonna find something on there. Hold on. Let me get that Jada kiss for you, bro. Yeah.
Man, I've realized, like, and this is me keeping it 100, right? One of the things that I have come to learn about myself is that it's uncomfortable to be held accountable in things that you don't want to do. Now, I don't know about y'all, but a relationship taught me that real quick. Because you want to learn, you want somebody to hold you accountable. Your partner will remind you of every single thing you said you were going to do and you did not do.
Boy.
I don't care if you told them I'm going to go and I'll wipe the kitchen sink down in 10 minutes. I'll make a couple.
Real.
They will bring every single thing up. But see, the thing is that initially, I was like, that's what you tripping on? Like, because I didn't wipe down the kitchen sink. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but then you realize it's not about the topic, or it's not about the size of the item. It's just the fact you said you're going to do it and you didn't do it. You know? And it's like, what I learned about that is it's uncomfortable. And the first thing they'll throw up is like, yeah, see, you don't like being held accountable. Or they'll say, you don't like being told about yourself. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're right, I don't. But what I realize is because we all have like this image, right, that we view ourselves in.
Boy.
And when they go on and they hold you accountable, it doesn't align with that image that you have of yourself.
Damn, I'm about to hit you with my Birkenstock
That's
right
like
now.
a
That's why
dart at your
accountability
identity.
is so uncomfortable. It's because I see myself as A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And you're calling out weaknesses and flaws, and you're inconsistent. I'm king of habits. What you mean I'm inconsistent? You know what I mean?
Boy.
But to me, that's like the beauty of a relationship, because that's someone who loves you enough to, I'm about to pop that bubble, right? I'm about to humble you real quick. Or, you know, I've even been told something like, you know, you're not at the level you think you're at. You know what I mean? But we need to hear that, right? I don't care if you're in the gym and you think you're the strongest dude in the gym, and someone else bigger than you comes and say, watch out, little guy.
Always someone better.
Always someone bigger, always someone's better, always someone's faster, but you need that.
It's crazy, bro, because last week, so every Tuesday I coach a company, a big construction company up in the Seattle area, right? And we were just talking about conflict resolution. And one of the biggest conversations that come up with conflict is called the identity conversation. And the challenge with the identity conversation is when somebody calls out a discrepancy in your work habit or the way you are, we immediately take that as an assault against our identity.
Why are you attacking me?
Why are you attacking me?
Why you attacking
Because
me?
how I see myself and what you're pointing out it's not congruent with what I believe about myself. And when it comes to being able to build yourself up, when it comes to you being able to hit those goals, you have to be able to know the difference. It's very possible that somebody, your spouse in this incident, or your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your partner, your boss, I mean, you name it, anybody can call out a flaw in your character without having it be character assassination.
Right. It's not always an attack.
It's not always an attack. It's okay for them to say you suck in this area, but you cool in all the other areas. But this area right here,
We need some improvement.
yeah, you suck, dude. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'll tell you what, there's two people, I don't care who it is, I promise you, as sure as I'm black, two people or two relationships that are a mirror to who you are is your spouse and your kids. It's your spouse and they are mirrors
Right.
to who you really are.
Facts. Yeah.
And so when it comes to this process of growing and evolving, that's another area that's an indicator. Like I heard this thing is saying, make sure that your wife and your kids, or your partner and your kids, your husband and your kids know and have met the person that everybody's applauding while you're on the stage. Like, make sure they know them. Make sure, like, do they know them? Have they experienced them? And so I think this is all huge moments of being able to recognize that and being able to come into these areas as we begin to grow. And as we talk about learning how to stay committed, and we talked about how do you know when you're still in that preparation stage, when you're not seeing the fruit of it, right? But there's I think there's an elephant in the room. I think there's an elephant in the room.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. And I don't even know if we have all the time in this episode, right? But I feel like the biggest question that people are probably going to watch this and ask, because we talk about doing what God has called you to do, or doing what you feel like you're called to do, doing what you feel like your purpose is. Somebody's in this spot and they're saying, well, what is my purpose? What does that look like? And how do I know that I'm preparing myself for my purpose? When people are, let me preference this statement. When people are goal-oriented or forward-thinking, it comes easy for us to have these conversations because we've done deep work, we've done this, but somebody is starting their journey. Somebody is trying to be, somebody is trying to meet the person that they've never been before. So how do you, like, I guess the only way I can and reference this is I was stepping into a new season of me becoming a different version of me.
Talk about it. Come on.
And right before I launched this Prison Break Live experience, I called Cam, and I had dropped like bread. In the last 2 months, I have dropped more money on my coaching, more money in investing in myself than I ever have in my entire life. And I called Cam up one night and I said, bro, listen, I travel around the world. I speak on stages. I coach CEOs on confidence, on this. I said, bro, can I just be 100 with you? I am terrified right now. And I feel this this fear that I've never felt before. And bro, I'm in my car. I ain't even came in the house yet. You know those type of moments where you got to get this cry out, you got to get this yell out. You know you're making steps to invest in yourself, but there's this fear that comes with this next phase of your life. And it was this fear of, how do I become this person that I've never met before? And I had this talk with you, Cam, and you shared something, bruh, that just completely revolutionized. I was like, yo, where's this fear coming from?
Tell it, bro.
And you started talking about how, man, that's the fear of you becoming somebody that you've never met before. It's that fear of understanding that it's the unknown person that you are becoming in this journey. And so I feel like the reason why I'm asking this or preferencing this way is because there's somebody who's probably listening to this podcast right now and saying, you guys are talking about purpose, you guys are talking about all this, but is it possible that you could be moving towards a right thing like we talked about, or you could be moving towards purpose and still have fear?
You're going. I don't think it's just possible. It's
going to happen.
It's existential. It's part of it. And like I think we talked about this on the episode, is as long as you're not in any clear physical danger, fear should be your compass on where you should go. That's the map.
Hold on. Right? What you mean? What you mean by that?
If you're scared of it, it's because it means a lot to you. Right?
You're scared to mess it up.
You're scared to mess it up. And since you have those feelings and you don't want to mess it up and it means a lot to you, then that's how you know you're going in the right direction. That's what you're meant to do. You know, if someone says something about your art or something you really care about, it hits because you're like, yo, I really, really care about that thing. And so, you know, someone who's high up in the military hit me the other day and asked me, like, how do you speak on stages without getting nervous? Like, how do you present? And I told him, you're selfish. It's not about you.
Boy,
it's about
let me
the
just
audience.
Get that DJ horn again. Let me just hold on. Let me double. I'm gonna double up on it. Hold on. Bam, there it is.
It's not about you. It's about the audience. And
it's about the purpose, right?
It's about the purpose. When you change your frame of reference and come from a position of loving on them, then you'll be good. And then he's like, oh, wow, like that helped me so much. But what about the ums and the messing up with my talking?
Or one of these right here. I'm saying, well, you get one of them right there.
I was like, it's actually relatable, right? I call it the Taylor Swift effect. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. When you look real regular, people can relate with you. You know, Beyonce, we can't achieve that.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I was just like, bro, you just it's relatable. Like, people are gonna judge you. They're gonna say what they're gonna say. It's not for them. But for the people, you never know. It could be one person in that audience where they were like, and we've had this happen where we were working out with someone and they were like, I was gonna take away my life tomorrow, but because of you, what you said today, I decided not to. And then that person went on to be fireman. Right. And so you never know who you're gonna change. So do it for the one, do it for them. And it's not about you and what you look like and you chasing this impeccable thing of perfection.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is when you feel that fear, on one side of it's the fear of saying, man, I want to do this right. But on the other side, if you're feeling fear of being able to step out and do this, you're thinking too much about yourself and not about the person that's going to be liberated or freed from what you're doing.
And
go ahead.
And all of our actions and all of our habits and everything we do, even though people don't say it to your face all the time, they're watching and you're watching. They're watching, bro. My dad saw this guy across the street stand tall and he was real muscular and chiseled up. And my dad said, I want to be like that, man. That made my dad start working out, become a trainer. And because of my dad, I work out hard and I try to. That guy has no clue that he changed generations of lives just because of his habits.
Boy, that's talking. Okay, hold on. So I'm going to swing this to you, Cam. You told me a story in the car that almost had me, and I was driving. I almost wrecked my car on the 710 freeway when he dropped this bomb on me. Like, he dropped this story. I need you before. There ain't no way this podcast is gonna come to a close until you drop this story, bro. You gotta give it, bro.
I was telling Jeff about one of my favorite movies. Like, I could recite this movie line for line, right? And it's the movie Cadillac Records with Beyonce, right? They tell the story of chess records, blues music took place in Chicago era in the 50s. And just growing up as a music head and my grandfather being from New Orleans and, you know, just pushed me into a love of music. And there's this opening scene where this musician who was on to have this incredibly successful career and ends up inspiring generations of musicians by the name of Muddy Waters. You know, there's guys like B.B. King and Eric Clapton. All the people were inspired by him, right? Well, he was born in a slave shack in Mississippi, and he was a sharecropper. And this is like in the 40s, I believe, and like these European, I guess you can call them scholars who were studying folk music at the time, right? And they were going deep down in the South, and they were recording these bluesmen, these people who worked the fields and just sang spirituals and blues music, and because there's pain in that, right? So they never heard music like that. Come on now, they never heard. You never heard that type of pain and stuff in this music, right? Yeah. So they pull up and they got the recording equipment back in the trunk of the car. He pops the trunk and he tells the musician, play. So he starts playing his guitar and he's singing. And mind you, this guy's a sharecropper. He's never seen this type of technology before. He's never been recorded before, right? So he records him singing this music, and then he plays it back, and he hears his voice for the first time ever in his life. He's never heard himself recorded before. He never heard his own voice. So he was unaware of his own talent. He was unaware, right, of the potential that he held. So the scholar asks him, what do you think? And his response was, I feel like I just met myself for the first time. So that opportunity, that moment drove him to pack his stuff up, get on the train, go to Chicago, end up having a decades-long successful music career, right? So I was telling Jeff that, you know, we talk about this brotherhood and bros to men, this show, right? And the reason why I think these relationships are so important, and if you don't know your purpose, and if you don't know maybe if you're in the right sector, the right career, the right field, if what you're doing is truly what you're supposed to be doing, get around people who are going to introduce you to yourself. It's that simple. Get around people who are going to introduce you to yourself. So I don't mean the person you currently are. I mean, get around people who see potential in you that you don't even know that you hold. All right? Get around a spotter. We're in the gym. I'm benching. I can't. No, you got 3 more in you. Let's go. Right? I do? Get around someone who's going to spot you in life and introduce you to a version of yourself that you've never met. And that's where that growth and purpose will come from.
It's oily.
I'm just marinating on it for a moment. Hey, he had me on, I'm telling you, I was on the 710 freeway and we had just come off the 91 and my man told me that story and I was driving and I was just like, hold on, Cam. Like, let me just give me a moment.
Yeah. Because I just love it, bro, because like, this within the first 5 minutes of the movie, and that's my favorite part of the entire movie. Because how many times do we come around people and say, I don't know who I am, right? Or you come out of a relationship where they say, I don't know who I am anymore. I gave so much of myself to that person, now I'm just lost. I don't know who I am.
Well, and I think that's why it's important, even in relationships, if the person in the relationship that you're with is not pointing to your potential, who you're called to be.
Don't speak to me in this moment.
Bro, don't. Yeah.
Not who I am right now.
No, 100%. Who am I going to be? I tell everybody, inside of every single man is a king and a fool. And whichever one you address, ladies, is the one that comes out.
That's who you're going to get.
That's the one you're going to get. And inside of every woman is that we call it, you know, in Christianity, we call it, man, that Proverbs 31 woman. That's that woman that's great with business. She hold it down. She's smart. She's there. But whatever one you address is the one that comes out, because if you talking about the wrong one, look, I'm just gonna tell you right now.
She belongs to the street.
You know what I'm saying? You pull the wrong one out, she gonna belong to the streets. But you know what I'm saying?
Don't say,
you know what I'm saying? But I'm for real though. Like if the person that you're with and the person that you're around isn't speaking to the person that you're called to be, they can't see that, you with the wrong person. And so I think being able to understand, coming back to the story, man, how do I stay in this? How do I stay in this when I am persistently waiting, right? Yeah. How do I stay in a place where I am being confident in the hallway? What are these types of things? I love that, because that's one of the ways is, do you have people while you're in your waiting still reminding you of the greatness that's in you and reminding you of what's to come? It's a game changer.
It is.
So listen, we here and we coming to the end of our show. I know it's a sad moment right now. But listen, we're going to have more episodes. But as we always do, man, I want you guys, through this conversation, our prayer and our hope is that, man, you guys got something that was going to be able to just shake your thoughts. These are conversations that we have on the phone, conversations we got in the car. We spit it off of each other and then just kind of like spin. And so, Dips, Cam, as we always do, man, what would be something in this conversation that if you could leave somebody with watching this episode, what would be the one thing that you can leave them with?
Lock in, focus. Recognize that it's your prep time because you aren't where you want to go yet. Lock in and figure out what you got to do habitually. Raise your standards. Get around people with high standards, because you will always fall to the standard level of your peer group. And when you're around people that hold that standard, also realize and give yourself some grace that sometimes you won't meet that standard. Because when you have high standards, they're demanding, and every now and then you won't meet them, but that's okay. Wake up. Today's a new day. Get after it again with those standards. And just have faith.
Yeah.
Just have faith that through the law of expectancy, expect to get to the gate called there. And one day you're going to wake up, you're going to be there. And then it's time for a new gate called there, right? It's levels. Like,
levels to this.
we achieve that. What's next? Right?
Sir.
And so it's a lifelong thing. And man, this talk with you guys, this episode, just, man, I needed it, because, you know, just keeping that standard, being by myself lately, just head down doing it. So, you know, things creep into your mind. The idle mind is the devil's playground. So I try to stay busy, try to just pray and wait my time.
Yeah.
And I know it's coming.
Absolutely.
Cam, what you got?
I mean, I'm just gonna keep it simple, and I think like two things. I think one is stop being afraid to take that L. You know, because if it feels uncomfortable, it means two things. One is that you care deeply about it, and that you're growing, right? I mean, you don't get nervous before dates that you don't care about, right? So if you're around that person that's always giving you butterflies, it's probably because you don't want to mess this thing up. You know, I might have a little thing for this person. So, you know, pay attention to those physiological reactions. Like, dang, I really care about this. Like, this is where I want to be, right? Another thing is just, I would just say, be, honest with yourself. Yeah. Because what you aspire to be, you may not be ready to be. You know, and you're going to have to do some work between here and there to ultimately put yourself in that position. Because, you know, again, don't be naive and ignorant and think that those opportunities that you dream about come to the unprepared. And I think if you're truthfully honest with yourself and you are honest about the work that needs to be done, always put yourself in the best position to be successful.
Love that, man.
You got for him, brother?
Oh, man. I would simply say is that you're not chasing success, you're growing success. Too many times when we're in this process, we're trying to chase the next big money move, the next big thing, but success isn't chased, it's grown. And so you got to find out where you're going to plant yourself at. You're going to water it, let God bring that increase. You do your due diligence, and God will take care of the rest. And so remember that you're not chasing success, you're growing success. So that's what I got. Hey, but listen up, fellas. Another episode of the Bros to Men podcast in the books.
It feels good to be back, don't it?
We back. So we got more episodes coming, but listen, we just want to say thank you so much for rocking with us. Thank you for watching the Bros to Men show. And until next time,
love y'all. Peace.